DEFCON. This is Tim and Ben reviewing it. Hey Tim.
Hey Ben.
I love what their website says about it. The world's first genocide em-up. It's global thermonuclear war and nobody wins. But maybe, just maybe, you can lose the least.
Yeah, losing the least, huh? There isn't really any story to it. All you do is you get in the game, there's a pretty decent tutorial that shows you the basics of how the game works, and then you just play. It's just a big map, and you just point and click around, and you nuke things.
It's by Introversion, who also made Darwinia and Multiwinia, and all of their games, including this one, have a very good multiplayer
You just
component.
connect.
Another person starts a server, you connect to that server, and you play.
It's too easy. I mean, I can understand other companies not having that simple of an interface, but...
Well, it baffles me that a company like this can do it, but like Unreal Tournament 3 requires all sorts of nonsense to get working if you don't have like a dedicated server set up somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, not to get off topic, but you have to understand that there's a lot more things that Unreal Tournament has to calculate.
Yes.
DEFCON does. Punk. Anyways, so I guess that pretty much covers what the story has to do.
The story is everybody is launching nuclear missiles at each other for some reason.
Yeah, pretty much. So, let's talk about the way the game plays. So the game basically starts you out with a big world map, and it gives you a set number of supplies and resources, and that's all you get for the rest of the game. You choose the continent you're going to be, and then you plant all your units. You get naval warships, you get silos, you get airfields.
Get radars.
Oh yeah, your radar.
Those are kind of important. You want to see what's coming at you.
This is true. And you pretty much have to protect your cities. You are going to get casualties, there's no doubt about it, but your goal is to get the least amount of casualties as possible.
It is a strategy game, very much, because you want to protect more of the areas that have the most people, but also you may want to put some in other areas that may be more beneficial to attacking whoever else is on the map.
Nuclear silos have two modes. They have an air defense mode, and then they have a launch mode. And it's being able to know when to switch. You can switch between the two at any time, except for when you run out of nukes, then it's in default into air defense, which helps knock out nukes.
At the beginning of the game, it starts at DEFCON 5, and that kind of gives everybody time to place their units, because after a while it switches to DEFCON 4, then 3, then 2, until you get to 1, and new things become unlocked for each one that it passes.
Mm-hmm.
And DEFCON 1 is when you start being able to launch nuclear missiles from your silos.
Each game has the capacity to last for 6 hours. Potentially, but you can, if you're playing a multiplayer match, you can speed up the time times 2, times 3, times 4, 4 being the fastest. The game has a couple gameplay modes, but essentially you're all still nuking each other.
It's pretty much the same game with different ways of scoring.
If you think about it, any gameplay mode is a different way of scoring.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, there's a standard way of scoring, and then there's a way of scoring called genocide. The regular way of scoring is where you start out with 100 population, and then it's to see who has the most by the end of the match. And then the other scoring mode is just to see who killed the most, and that's called genocide. Yeah, we'll get into how creepy this game can be later on. They have different gameplay modes that are based around diplomacy.
Yeah, you can make and break alliances in this game,
which can add to some tension as well.
Tim has turned on me a number of times, and lost because of it, I may add.
Everybody loses.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. There's no real winner in this game, just a survivor.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much how the game is played. It plays kind of like an RTS. You know, when you have your naval units, you click on your naval unit, it sends the unit wherever you want to. Your naval units have different modes. Submarines can launch nukes. Aircraft carriers, they can destroy submarines and also launch bombers, which have nukes on them. They can also launch fighters as well, which are more helpful for recon than anything, I think, anyways.
Overall, the gameplay is fun. The game is a little bit depressing, and sometimes I don't really feel like playing it, but once you get into the game, there's sort of an epic feeling to it.
It's also a very slow game.
It is a slow game, but that adds to the whole weight of the actions taken in the game. Like, just when that missile is coming down and you're waiting to see if it's going to hit the city or if it's going to be taken down by their defenses. And when it hits and it's like, 4.5 million dead. Yes, that's depressing.
That is... Wow, that brings me down, man. One particularly interesting game mode they have is actually called an office mode. Well, we said that the game would typically last 6 hours if you don't accelerate the time. If you do, then it boils it down to 15 minutes maximum. The office mode, it locks it in at 6 hours. It's played with no sound, and I think it's also in a window. You can play one game over the course of a workday, and if you double press the escape button, it'll minimize it.
And go down to the system tray.
Yeah, it doesn't even show up in the taskbar in case your boss walks by.
I'm not sure why exactly they're encouraging it, but it's still an interesting mode.
That is funny. It's tempting, I must say, but I haven't tried it yet. I haven't been able to convince a coworker to give it a shot. Because really, like, there's certain times where you can just, if you're going to be playing in real time, I'm pretty sure that you can enact some orders and then just sit back for a while, because you're not going to have to pay attention to it the entire time. So we can talk about the presentation.
The graphics are simplistic.
Minimalistic.
But it works to the game's advantage, I think.
I'm almost convinced this game can run on everything. Anything, I should say. I mean, it requires 128 megabytes of RAM, 60 megabytes of hard drive space, Windows 98 and up. It runs on my netbook pretty well. If you zoom all the way out, this frame rate will slow down a tiny bit.
That's not to say it doesn't look nice, though.
Oh no, that's where the art style comes in. It pretty much draws all its inspiration from a movie from 1983 called War Games. If you see the game and you've seen the movie, you've immediately made the connection already, probably. Now, for a game like this, what audio there is does a good job of bringing to bear the seriousness of your actions.
It's sort of this haunting choir and strings atmospheric background, and every once in a while there's a certain track that has this very distant woman crying. It's a little bit creepy. It sounds like she's in some sort of bomb shelter. There's like nothing happy about the game at all. And you almost want to feel bad with yourself for being like, yes, I took out Shanghai. 3.2 million dead. If you don't take the game seriously and just have some fun with it, it's a good game. But it can be sort of like, well, if you start thinking about it, it gets depressing pretty quickly. Yeah, I mean, it's still fun to play in a what-if scenario, but the problem is that it's a very plausible scenario. Probably the largest body count of any game ever. Except for maybe if they did destroyed a planet in some game or whatever. I don't know of any games that are like that. Except for Star Wars. Wow, I never thought about that. Star Wars has mass murder in it. To wind this down, give it a rating, Tim. I'll give it a number rating of 7.5 to an 8. I was going to give it an 8 to an 8.5. Once you've played one game of this, you've pretty much seen the whole thing, but it has a lot of replay value if you do it with some friends. Oh yeah, and the game has support for up to 6 players at one time. Yeah, I mean, with the kind of computers that this can run on, just about anyone can play it. Pretty much. It's $10 if you go to Steam and buy it. They also have a Linux version and the Mac version. And there's a demo. I mean, there's really no reason not to try it out at this point if it runs on everything. I've never tried the demo. Is that like a time trial? Because I don't know. I don't see how you could not have the full game. I'm not sure how it would work. You can play a single-player tutorial and may play a single-player game against one AI opponent in the demo. And it'd probably be fun to do 3 people against 3 AI. I mean, the AI is smart enough that it can be a challenge. Oh yeah, definitely. So that's DEFCON. Indeed. You can see the rest of our videos at cplusgamers.com. See you later, Tim. Yeah, see you later.